In fact, actually, it looks like we're getting straight into draft.
Excellent news.
And here we go. Will be game 2 of Thunder Talk Gaming versus Royal. Never give up. RNG backs against the wall. If either of these teams lose this series, you got to feel like they are pretty much heading out of playoffs. It's not mathematically locked. We have technically had teams go through on 8 wins before, but it is oh so difficult. TT outscaled in the last game. RNG, they let through that Smolder and they were punished for it. They picked in that Ezreal Karma and it didn't work. Will they do the same this time? 2 bans left. Senna, Smolder, both up.
Are they happy to trade it out? There's a raging debate on Twitter as I speak about which of the champions is more busted. You happy to trade them? So far it's been Smolder that's come out on top, 9-2 overall in the LPL, 9-1 when it comes to bot lane in particular after that last game. Karma banned away on the other side, they've got rid of the Vi. On the other side, it's double AD carry bans as it stands, even if particularly the Ashe has found more prevalence in the support role as of late.
We are getting one of the Smolder in the center through. Azir can get through this draft as well. Hui has been played by both these players. A lot of big picks up and available. In fact, actually, both of those big AD carries come through. Are we just going to see a Smolder lock first pick? DawnXN played it well, and even though RNG had it in the laning phase, it did not last that long.
There it is, being hovered initially. We'll see whether it's actually locked in. We've not seen a huge amount of Smolder first picked, but it's certainly been in the first 3 bans. Varus up, take.
Varus is very lane dominant. And we have seen in LCK poke Varus locked in to outrange the Smolder and then just kind of chunk him out of fights before he can get value. I don't think LPL right now is great at playing poke compositions. The engages happen very quickly. We see a lot of Nautilus locked in. Of course, it's not here right now. And that can really change the equation. Now, what do you do now? You can force the Varus away from poke and onto on-hit if you lock in a tank somewhere else. A lot of different AD carries left up this time. It's not going to be the Senna. And Smolder hovered over right now. Varus locked in. Kalista very lane dominant. We could be back towards the earlier points of spring where it's all about early level 1s, level 2s, level 3s from Kalista and Varus.
LWX, of course, largely made a name for himself on things like the Kalista back when he was a little bit fresh and a little bit more highly rated as an AD carry. He's kind of fallen away from the points of glory. I think this was a guy who was on the FPX roster that won Worlds, if I'm remembering correctly. Did exceptional stuff there with Crisp in the bot lane. Looking at a Renata to potentially pair up with the Varus is quite good into the Kalista because you can just out-trade her. It's also a good takeaway. Bailout helps out a lot there. People start hopping on forwards. You use your ultimate to dissuade that from happening. Talir being debated here for UCal as well.
Well, I mean, you've got the, of course, Kalista now has to think about, well, what are you going to pair up with? Because you don't have Renata. What do you do here? Varus, Renata, very, very strong. Also means that you're likely to get the Varus on hit because you've got that Renata to buff up the AD, the attack speed and the kind of like the on-hit value. What do you lock in here? Potentially look towards something like a Xin Sao.
Really?
What? Oh,
okay.
Kalista Amumu, very strong level 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
This must be the first Amumu we have seen the entirety of the year. All right, call your friends, call your family, get them in here if you... Well, I mean, it depends if your family likes seeing Amumu, but if you want to see some different champions, RNG throwing out a bit of a curveball. This should be support Amumu to be a really early game threat.
What a moment. We'll see whether that works out. It's a bold call, Cotton. We'll see whether it pays off. Could strictly go to jungle, I suppose, but we'll wait and see.
Another thing as well, because we'll keep talking about this, Amumu's passive, so if you auto-attack or then you get the Q or you roll, if you get the passive applied, it means that the magic damage hitting that champion afterwards is converted in a certain percentage to true damage. Very, very good for the Hui. Hui already does an insane amount of damage and can follow up from a long range. If you get hit by an Amumu combo and you get the Hui combo over the top of it, someone is dying. Especially these 3 champions locked in. They're very squishy. I don't mind this combo coming in. It's spicy. I like it.
And we've seen already that Hui works best when he has people to hold enemies down so his skill shots cannot miss. It was the same with Jace last year, paired up with the Maokai. Amumu does a similar job. Double bandage toss, and of course the curse of the Sad Mummy. You all get rooted in place, and Hui goes, thank you very much. Hits QW and someone loses half of their HP. The second round of bans was the Udyr and the Jarvan on the other side. Another way to corral people into a scary place. It's Poppy and of course the Xin Zhao away on the other side. Some very exciting jungle picks being hovered, but we'll wait and see what's actually locked in. I think Viego for Wei would make the most sense. Another way to capitalize on that initial blow up that happens.
And now, what this means, exactly, yes, you've got that reset comp really set in. If Amumu hits something, they're dying. Someone's getting absolutely crushed. Hoya will not have counterpick this time, which is dangerous. Breathe 1 without counterpick last time. TT, they have been throwing a curveball. How do they plan to hit this one? You can see that there's some intense conversations happening from coach and players on the side of Thunder Talk. They lock in the Aatrox. Very good in terms of flanking threat. The Renata can kind of like throw down the ultimate down the front and center. Aatrox can come in from a flank and capitalize on it. What do they do to round out this comp? Lee Sin would at least be able to contest Viego early.
Bejuan, of course, very comfortable on the Lee Sin, but I say that about every LPL jungler. They all love to play the champion. It is locked in. You've now got good diving combo here between the Taliyah and the Lee Sin. You're going to want to try and abuse likely that Varus Renata pressure bot side. We're hoping will be pressure bot side to snowball that in your favor. RNG tried that last game and they managed to get the tower. They managed to get a CS lead, but didn't get anything more than that. Counter pick for Breathe, who was by far the brightest spark despite his deaths, and Hoya still being pretty obnoxious at points on that Twisted Fate for sure. Last pick Gwen is being hovered. I think it's locked in looking at the timer, but I'll wait until the overlay tells me that's true.
It is one of Breed's, of course, one of his old school classic picks. I say old school. Gwen's not that old, but is one which he's found a lot of success on. Have to see when that goes through, but still, it would work quite well against the Aatrox in terms of a counter pick. If you can scale up in that matchup, it gets very, very powerful. Looks like the Champions League just failed at last one. We'll be going back to that. Just confirming what happens with that last pick.
Yeah, thinking it's likely the Gwen, but as we saw, the overlay kind of janked out. We don't quite know what's happening. I suspect it will be that remake, so we get to have a look towards the top of the screen. And actually, maybe not. Maybe it was just an overlay bug. The champions are all up there. So we're assuming that is the composition. It is, yeah, it was just an overlay bug. The champion was locked. We haven't got to remake draft, and that means we can hit the rift for game 2. RNG failed to capitalize on their early pressure and early structural advantage. Thunder Talk, different style of game, more lane pressure, more about they being the ones who are going to be assaulting the bot lane, hopefully with the likes of the Lee Sin and the Taliyah. Can this Kalista Amumu combo prove spicy enough, different enough and dangerous enough to prevent that from happening?
We have seen very, very few games of Amumu this year, and it is indeed the first Amumu in major regions of 2024, so you want to get yourself some learning in and seeing if there's some extra spice to throw into your solo queue. We'll see if RNG can actually make a good on it, or whether this is the time-old question. Innovation or ints? RNG did a fair bit of the inting in the game 1. They couldn't close out that game, looking for something very different now for their struggling bot lane to capitalize on.
Ming, we highlighted in the pre-show how many champions this guy has been through trying to find something that works. He has struggled, but then again, most of RNG have. And last game, honestly, the bot lane played okay. They did. They got solid leads. They really did. But hit the mid game, and the team as a whole failed to capitalize in any real meaningful way. They had one collapse onto Hoya, who dodged everything, and the turnaround cost them a Baron and cost them the game.
Onto the Rift. Of course, level 1 Amumu, very, very strong. You get the 2 casts of that Q. He's gone for the glacial, the glacial augment, which means that you hit the first one, and suddenly it's much harder to retreat after that point too. Thing is, Varus Renata is incredibly lane dominant in its own right. I think level 1, Varus Renata wins, even with the potential for the bandage shots coming through. Level 2, though, I think once you have like the Q coming through as well from LWX and the Tantrum coming through from the Amumu, maybe things change a little bit more than that. Very interested to see how this early level goes in the bot lane.
I think aggressive summoner spell from Thunder Talk as well. They're kind of aware of the potential threat at the all-in, so they run heal on the Renata and cleanse on the Varus. So very defensively minded, whereas Ming has gone towards the Ignite, no heal for them. And it does mean in those extended trades, if 1xN gets bailed out, can start playing out those fights a little longer, Ming's retreat paths might get a little bit dangerous to manage. So
you've got to use the bush here as Ming to try and make sure your bandage shot comes out of vision, so you're not eating easy auto attacks, and seeing that you can kind of stop Chocho and XN getting good value. That loyalty program not getting value at level 1 kind of sucks. You really want to get as much of that as possible.
Though indeed, of course, that's part of why Renata has been so late dominant. The ability to shield 2 people and hit 2 people with one press of a button is quite busted. Doesn't scale that well, of course, but the base values in lane, very, very strong.
It's enough to get you the win in the early levels. We haven't seen a proper fight really erupt so far. Reminder, it might be a little bit touchy, a little bit tense, because if you lose this as RNG, you're probably out of playoffs. RNG, one of the most famous organizations in worldwide League of Legends, could be missing playoffs. A very rare occasion. EDG in a similar boat. They lost themselves that that series earlier today, and they were almost certainly out in their own regards. A lot of our real old guard starting to change here. TT, though, they're not in an easy position themselves. Also 2-7. Want to capitalize on the game 1 win.
Indeed, towards an early shove for 1xN and Chocho, who finally get a chance to shove in compared to last game.
This is a very important moment. You see that Wei and Beichuan both on the bot side of the map. Both of these lanes are very early prio. The 2 casts of the Bandage Toss, of course, very, very important for that Amumu. Potentially able to lock up 2 relatively squishy champions in the early game well. It looks like we're potentially evolving towards an early 3v3. Wei off a vision right now, looking towards bot lane Scuttle, but with Beichuan on the bot side of the map, I think TT with the wave push have themselves the advantage.
Do indeed. Both junglers will spot this one up. Wei immediately throws down the Harrowed Path, and Chocho and 1xN come along to support this one out. I think we want to end it with a whole massive skirmish. Everyone's coming.
Tanyuan's here, 2 casts to the queue, first one last.
Slash for the Spectral, more big damage on the base one, who might well get bailed out. Staying alive for now, gets bailed out indeed. Does go in, will surely come back to life. No, not quite. Now the Crushing Maul comes through. Chocho flashes one, but of course 1xN left out to dry, and RNG win the skirmish in the bot side. So close to the reset for base one.
And that's why we said, both junglers on the bot side of the map at level 3, going into level 4. This is the moment the game breaks. It is so close. The Varus Renata almost makes a comeback through the bailout, but doesn't quite manage to go through. RNG walk away with 2 for 1, and particularly with 1xN dying and losing a huge wave, that's a big issue for them, losing a lot of XP and gold.
Does indeed. The cannon minion there being dragged away briefly. Can the arrow hit it? Does so. Does at least get that.
Okay, not quite that energetic. He's gonna hit that from a freaking mile away. Gets that cannon all the same. Well played from Chocho to at least get some gold onto the board. But Tanyuan gets himself first roam here. It's a 4v3. He can get himself a Severing Bolt into the right places too, because Hui has a very big follow-up. So close to getting the kill there. But it's not quite enough. TT have to turn tail and flee.
They do, and it comes at cost, as you said. That's a rough one to see. Of course, they might still turn around the next time around, but for now, it's the Kalista with the early back and the Berserk Greaves. It feels very good for her. It's a kill on Wei on the Viego, something he's very comfortable on. Beichuan goes towards the Grubs, but Wei is around, strictly.
He is, but, I mean, he's got pushing mid and top against him, so not really much you can do there. You're not the Lee Sin. You can't fly over the wall in the same way that early level Lee Sin can, so really no level for contest unless he was going to go in for a Smite Steal. Really wasn't an angle there. Where he is, however, going to walk out onto the map with a lot of combat stats. Noonquiver built up already, signals that he's going for Kraken Slayer first item, which means that he can be a damage threat. Less about being tanky, less about being hard to kill, more about killing other people, and he's heading towards bot side for another potential fight around here. Let's see how this Hex Flash works in Ming. He's got an angle.
The handshake was excellent from Chocho there to deny that.
Thing is, technically, the handshake would not stop the bandage toss. You have to have the bandage toss hit first and then the handshake to hit afterwards to stop that coming through. If that had been on target, Ming still would have gone through. The more I think about it, actually, it's quite hard for Renata to deal with the Amumu if they're starting to trade those skill shots time after time. Ming's starting to threaten there.
Nice little look in from RNG, doesn't lead to too much. Breathe on the top side as well, burns the Ghost and the ultimate. Can't get the kill on Hoya, but does have to reset and look to teleport back in.
That top lane matchup's not really been the focus. 3v3 again. Ming once again walking up.
Beichuan just used the safeguard though, so not the easiest way to get out of this. The cleanse now used from 1xN. Another option, but the bailout works its way through. Way so low. Trying to get the kill, will not. 1xN just about alive, but LWX flashing forward, trying to get the rents. Can't quite make it happen until right at the end. Miss on the Q means that we will not quite secure the kill on Chocho, but it did get bloody close.
All of this is 3v3 bot lane, and this time the bailout works, and TT's bot lane are a much more financially solid this time. RNG, they have got 2 kills onto LWX's Kalista, but you can see exactly why both of these bot lanes are playing the way they are with the champions locked in. First major region Amumu for this year has a lot of ability to start fights. The first Q, very dangerous. See that Chocho just says, well, I can't let Varus get hit. I have to go in for this. Goes on the Ignite, 1xN immediately cleanses out of that, so less damage onto him. The bailout means that the first reset can't come through for Viego. If he gets a reset, maybe things changes there. He doesn't have the level 6 yet for it to be truly disastrous. And that could have been the end of all things. LWX, of course, I don't think he had the Rend cooldown, which means that he couldn't use that all onto that first kill. A mistake from LWX mechanically.
Unfortunate stuff, but 1xn gets the kill himself. It's 2-1 versus 1-2-3, and towards the mid lane we go to Beichuan. Just looking to see where the Tango gets in a dangerous position. Good step away. Will manage to dash forwards towards him anyway. Kicked into a wall. Dies. A Spiraling Despair comes through. But now a block from UCAL prevents Way from doing anything there.
I love the combo there from Beichuan. Actually goes to the flash ward hop instead of the ward hop flash. Tanyuan had no flash. He was dead there 100% as soon as Beichuan turns up in that position. So despite the fancy footstep, all it is delaying. It does nothing in that play. So TT, despite losing the early 3v3, Beichuan is here to play. He's the player which I've sometimes criticized this year and in the past. I really felt like it was UCAL and 1xn as the engine room of this team before. But Beichuan in this series, the Poppy in the game before, the Lee Sin now, having a great series.
3-1-2, 100% kill involvement, doing very, very well despite the early skirmishing in the river going against him. Has certainly been in the right places in the map and certainly been willing to brawl with the opposition. Thunder Talk find themselves up about 1,000 gold coming towards the bot lane. Weaver's Wall coming through. Ming on the wrong side of the wall. LWX, remember, has no flash. Cleanses early. But where, oh, where are you going to be running, little Callista? You don't have enough spears. This isn't the Olympics, and the javelin toss isn't getting you out of this particular matchup.
And you're definitely not going for the pole vault there on top of one of those spears. You can't go over that worked ground. Not the worked ground. The unraveled earth, the other one of them. UCAL comes in all the same and mills him into the ground all the same. LWX on the Revenant of Callista, dead once more.
And now more waves lost. 1xn getting more CS, and the lane which was pretty close for a little while just isn't anymore. And there's just no that this time Way wasn't around.
Last game we had, of course, the Talia on the other side trying to make the difference like this. Feels like UCAL has had the better run of things as well. Tanyuan, a player which we have criticized a little bit and said he's not really been the player of last year. Maybe not having something like that. That Annie has helped him, has not helped him. UCAL on the other side, though, really making good on this Talia's early game promise.
And it's also important to note that when UCAL was over in the LCK, the champion he was most famous for, Talia. This was his champion. The fact is coming back into meta when you need UCAL to step up. Thunder Talk probably breathing a sigh of relief, like, thank God this champion's in meta. UCAL's one of the best in the world in it, certainly historically.
Wave Crash coming in on bot side, level 6 hit from a Mumu. No, well, there is a cleanse on 1xn, so that's something to be careful around as well. The on-hit Varus is potentially someone that can cleanse and turn and burn onto the Amumu. The Amumu is not that tanky as a support when you start falling behind the game. I saw it comment and shout, which I did particularly enjoy, which is, so what's the concept of Amumu? Nautilus for bored people. So I appreciate that, now that I see you. I mean, I get it, right? I think that Amumu actually has a lot more early damage than someone like a Nautilus in a weird way. And particularly the extra follow-up very early into the game, very, very powerful. So I think as you get through to level 6 now, the teamfight ultimate, particularly for that ult flash, can be so powerful. TT, the job's not done yet, despite the fact that they've done well early.
Phenomenal. Still no cleanse. LWX marks the spot. That's an X-bot laner.
And this is looking like a particularly shallow grave because he keeps coming back from lane and dug up and put right back down into it. 1xn and Shocho on the much more seen Varus Renata, overcoming what could have been an early stumble, an early pitfall for them. And RNG really going to struggle to get value out of this bot lane now.
I love the aggression there. They both flash, they both see the angle, they both get the kill. It costs another wave to the Callista. Excellent stuff, all things said and done.
Hoya and Breathe not really able to get involved in the game in their own way. Hex Drinker first from Hoya. Interested to see if he has the gold to go towards a Profane Hydra. It takes a while sitting on that item before you get useful stats. Might actually just go towards the Sundered Sky and trust his other carries to get good value. But really, this game has not been about top lane. Let's be honest, very few games in the LPL have been about top lane, top side action, unless you have bot laners actively moving away from that lane. But when you have these kind of 2v2 early pressure bot lanes, it's not going to be the case.
Yeah, it does feel actually it's been LCK with more of the carry tops. We'll talk about that a little bit later. As Main gets in with the banish shots, flash for the ultimate, Fate's Call comes on through. The hostile takeover has little effect, but it will be both ultimates popped there. Cleanse used as well from 1xn towards the mid lane we go. The Grim Visage comes on through to fear UCAL away. And nothing too much more to write home about. Severing bot lands as well. Instead, we'll be seeing the reset from UCAL. Will likely look to teleport back towards the mid lane.
Means there'll be one global down. Globals in these kind of games can be very important with how quickly these fights can evolve. I think actually when you're looking at something like a teleport, if a teleport is coming into a fight, fight's over by the time it's ended. That's an important thing to note. Whereas something like the Talia ult comes in just a little bit quicker, so if UCAL is in the right position, that can be the difference maker all the same. Last game, felt like Tanyuan, rather like UCal and 1xN, when they had the Hui on their side, they could kind of wait and just eventually wait until the big 5v5s came through in RNG. They tried to avoid it as long as possible, but they couldn't delay the inevitable long enough. In this game, even though you have the Hui for Tanyuan, so the shoes on the other foot, does not feel like it is nearly as easy in late game.
6 grubs over to Thunder Talk at this point as well. We didn't really get a chance to talk about that, but when you've got pressure with a Varus Renata, your ability to get to these turret plates nice and early feels really good right now. Also worth noting, we've got 30 seconds till a Dragon coming on in, and Ming, having blown his flash and his ultimate in what looked like a pretty solid attempt at an engage, doesn't mean he's not going to have those for what could have been quite a critical fight.
How critical will that end up being? RNG. They are, of course, one game away from being in a very, very difficult position.
Oh, yeah.
They're already in a pretty rough one. 2-8 though. Very rough to come back from. They would have to win through all of their remaining matches realistically to have themselves a shot at playoffs. And this team, they've had a rough time of it last year or two. Xiaohu leaving last year was kind of a grim reminder to them in some ways that they've only really won with Xiaohu on the roster. It's been a long time since the era before him, and it was Uzi and likes of Tabe as well as their support back then, with acting with their Royal Club. They could really claim that they had success without Xiaohu. Coming into this game now, though, and this season, they're really trying to find a new era, and it has not been easy.
Beidrouin very swift to Q2, then ward hop over the wall to stay to safety. Ming on a flank angle does have the Hex Flash. Has got the Curse of the Sabami just available. Here comes the teleports for flying alongside the Weaver's Wall way. Very low. Remember, it's a squishy Viego this time around. Ming goes over the wall to little avail. The hostile takeover is in. Tanyuan flashing out of the Infernal Chains. Everyone here to play, but Tanyuan just can't get far enough away. Quay, you're just not that quick, and that river is only going to be carrying your coffin to wherever it lies next.
LWX tries to position further forward, waiting for his ult to come off cooldown so he could save Ming. Instead, he overstays, the ult doesn't come off, he gets caught, and he dies. RNG's bot lane, they try something different. The first 3v3 works, everything else besides that has been grim. Sat at 2 and 4, 2 and 8 between the two of them.
Man.
TT have well and truly won the bot lane arm wrestle. And instead of, you know, the legendary world's winning LWX, it's 1xN, the rookie LDL player that's coming out on top of this bot lane matchup. Ming, Hex Flash is in. It's not a bad ultimate, just doesn't have the ultimate for an LWX to save him. As it comes through on the end of this, you can see that Weaver's Wall puts him into such a difficult position, and LWX is not in a position to save his support at the end of it. Great cleanup fight from TT.
Tanyuan, because of the threat of UCal on the Talia as well, wasn't really in a position to follow up on what was an excellent ultimate from Ming, really. He hits all the people you need to, but where was the follow-up? Just not available, right? And now we're in a very different game from Thunder Talk from last game. They had to stall, they had to turtle, and then come back as they came online. This time, they have been the ones with the aggressive early moves, the aggressive early kills, and actually something of a gold lead, which they didn't have to worry about last game.
The more I look at this RNG team, I just wish they'd play towards topside instead. This bot lane have tried different things. LWX and Ming, I was excited when I heard about that, but LWX, last year, very inconsistent. He played fantastic games when it didn't matter anymore on FPX. In fact, when EDG were the best team in the league very early and into mid-place in mid-split in spring 2023, so this time last year, FPX beat them despite the fact that FPX were mathematically locked out of playoffs by that point, and that was largely through LWX having some fantastic games. You only really had those games, though, when it didn't matter. RNG, this matters more than ever, and LWX is sadly not performing to the level which RNG need him to be, and Ming, on the other side of it, has not really been that much better.
Ming in particular, you look at the performances. Was it Ming that went to the Asian Games, or was that Mako? I think
It was Mako,
yeah.
and that was why when we were talking about top esports in some of our casts in the last few days as well, actually one of the questions about him was, hey, you kind of sucked at in summer and then to Asian Games, can you recover? Well, we asked similar questions of Ming, saying, look, you haven't been playing for a year, and the last time we saw you, I guess things didn't work out so well. The very end of that kind of RNG tenure with Xiaohu, what can we expect from you? It's not been great so far.
No, not really at all. Now, we look at the map state, we look at all the towers that have just suddenly fallen as well, and when can you miss it? Thunder Talk Gaming up to 6,000 gold.
It has not been an easy early game for RNG, and I don't think they're as hard outscaled as last game. You have a Gwen which can threaten the backline. You have a Viego that can start off from resets from a quite coherent composition from RNG. I just don't think it's easy to do that when you're this far behind. You're going to lose a lot of towers now. Beige1 actually summoning a Herald in bot lane. Potentially look for a 2-tower push there. Mid lane outer turret already gone, of course. They're going to clean up a lot of the map here. Of course, with the 6 grubs, they can push this for forever and a day. First charge into tower, probably quite wasteful of that, the Herald's HP. With 6 grubs and a Herald, this should be an inner turret as well. Even more gold going into the pockets of Thundertalk.
The Lee Sin that decides to lead the charge, mounting up on the Herald. There go all the grubs. Everyone's around to try and defend this. But look who else isn't here. It's Yukal, who gets a huge shove into the mid lane. Another wave going down there. And good plays from Thundertalk to continue to pressure the map where they can.
Let's keep an eye on this gold lead. Because now the problem is, with so many turrets down on the side of RNG's side of the map, you're going to start losing access to jungle camps, you're going to start losing access to scuttle crabs, you're going to start losing access to vision, and it means that you're going to lose a lot of gold as TT potentially take them up as well. You currently have, 6,000-ish gold lead. TT will expect that to slowly creep up as RNG lose some extra kind of mini neutrals across the map.
Big one that's going to affect is, of course, Wei on the Viego, who has gone for a very aggressive, carnivorous build with the Kraken Slayer into what I think will be something with the Phage. Black Cleaver there. I forget what Phage builds into entirely these days. But it's a very aggressive build. And if he's being prevented from getting to that second item, if he's gone for these damage items, he's not going to get them.
Okay, Bandage Toss.
So Bandage Toss does land. That's a pretty big moment. Beige1 bailed out and failed to do so. And this could be the moment that RNG were looking for. Jungler dead. Baron's not quite alive. Unfortunately for them, LWX eats a massive arrow at the end of it. Hoya's not here, so the tier 2 in bot lane goes down to the top laner.
700 gold over to Hoya in one side of the map, and RNG only get themselves a single kill. They can't end up going any further with that one kill, and even without the smite on the table now, because RNG used all of their ultimates for that play, every single one of them, they can't even stick around to contest a dragon after that point. So honestly, sad thing about this, TT probably went out in the long term again with this. In a turret for one kill and a dragon, I take that, even though probably you shouldn't be getting caught out like this. A lot of this starts from the fact that, Beige1 doesn't really have the vision game to kind of keep things up on the top side of the map. A bit greedy there.
It was another one of those Nautilus hook things with the narrowness of the chains or the bandage toss on the Infernal Amumu. You can really easily get tricked into thinking it missed. It was a big lollipop snap on there that made it catch the very edge of that.
I always used to hate the electric Mumu. I can't remember what it's called. It's not like a robot Mumu or something. Whatever that one is. The one where it's got like, the glass head and stuff. So the little wires on that before the rework were so annoying. It felt like they were much smaller than the actual hitbox as well. Plus, pretty sure that one also had the global laugh bug for a while too, which was really concerning. We just had like the little creepy Mumu laugh going through the map. Oh, this is fun. Hang on, wait. That ward, because it was in the middle of where it... because it was where there was no terrain before, it ends up being in the middle of the wall. That's funny.
Huh. I've not seen that one before. That's a fun
No, me
touch.
neither. Every so often, something happens in League, and I'm like, huh, you can do that? I get those less nowadays because I feel like I've watched so much League that I'm mostly, like, familiar with stuff.
Lists, yeah.
But occasionally I'm sat there like, wait, what?
I think also, as a casting team, you sometimes get a hold of the bug lists to know.
Well, that's less about bugs. That's just more about interactions in general. So it's the kind of thing where, I don't know, when you looked at when, like, Malzahar Scion or Senna Scion was a thing, and like, hang on a second, you could put the Senna W onto this or the Malzahar E onto this, and then you kind of punt it through the Scion. You can do that. There are things like that, though, which occasionally catch you off guard.
Alright, Hoya getting the shove in top lane. Breathe trying to do the same in the bot side, and it's stalled out a little bit for now, but Dragon secured by Thundertalk a couple minutes ago.
Brief talk that we had earlier into the game was, hey, Hoya's going for Hexdrinker. What kind of build is he going for? Is he going to have enough gold to go towards the Profane Hydra? Yes, and actually he's managed to get that item completed now, before he needed to really be relevant. Now he is relevant, he can start impacting those team fights, and sadly, if you're sat there as... well, any of these RNG champions, maybe besides Breathe, if a good flank angle, the flangle, as we love to call it here, comes in from Hoya, this could get very dicey now from RNG. Both of these top laners looking to assassinate backlines where possible.
Baron Pit is well and truly in the control of Thundertalk game, but they've not really managed to shove into the red side jungle as yet. It appears to be the next move from Thundertalk as 1XM moves up from having claimed the mid lane wave. They know there's a ward there towards the red buff, which of course would be a team red buff at this point, so pretty nice to give over to something like a Varus.
This is why we were talking about saying, hey, so about that gold lead, we said it was just kind of under 6,000 before, but then when you actually start losing a lot of these camps, well, actually it's now more like 7,000 up towards that, so they're gaining some little bits and pieces here and there. Now, with that buff stolen, they can go towards this Baron as well. On hit Varus and the Leandries onto UCal, very strong on Baron. UCal doesn't even need to be on here, though. He's sat trying to wall off the rest of the team. Doesn't manage to get any of them away, though.
They're all behind. They're all corralled in. They pull off the Baron with the attempt there, but it means RNG forced away from waves. Thundertalk make the attempt, can't quite secure it. The teleport from Breathe, though, was earned.
It's earned, but it does mean that TT slow things down a little bit again. What are they going to do now? Send UCal to the bot side with his teleport. He can return to the play now as and when he wants. There's no inner turret to take there now, though. It does feel like RNG, they're not really at threat at losing turrets at this point. And that could potentially be something which TT would like to solve, again, by just kind of going back towards his Baron and forcing RNG to play around their lack of globals now. They don't want to flip it, they just want to make sure that RNG don't get to play the whole map.
Yeah, and the Weaver's Wall is on a significantly shorter cooldown than Teleporter Breathe, so within the next minute or so, they can look to repeat that, and Breathe is going to have to be on the right part of the map. At least Tang Yuan still has his, so he can play towards that bot lane, but UCal right now, hidden off vision, looking to maybe get a shove in towards that bot side.
So now, RNG are trying to force out the global of UCal, who pulls it early. They see that very quickly, and they immediately pull off of it. So it's a very quick and easy teleport claim from them. The geography, the terrain does not work out in their favor as a red side team doing Baron. It's hard to get into River, particularly on the all-seeing Baron kind of terrain. This one here with the long walls. Hard to get into it through this choke point we see from red buff into that jungle. Very hard to get out of the pit too, because it's such a long wall to get pinned against. TT going back to the play now, and with the resets coming from RNG, they will start this up again. They're on vision. They haven't cleared out all of these wards. RNG will have to come to fight again. Hoya teleporting in. This is now a true fight.
There might be a break point here that RNG can play around because they've all got second items, so actually the gold power not that far off. Going to try and make this one a flip! Can't quite make it happen. It was a good attempt. It did come down to that smell of burgers, but the kitchen turns out to be Thundertalks all along. They get the kill on Breathe as well.
And the dragon spawning in 5 seconds means that Breathe is dead. Wei has no flash, and there's a host of ultimates down from RNG, and they can't use them to fight for the dragon. I think when all ults are down, TT are so much more in the advantage. They can push in mid, they can take themselves a dragon, stop RNG getting themselves soul point there. They use the 6 grubs to keep a devastating push going on.
Massive work with Breathe down as well. He's so much of the team fight power at this point. The 2 out him. Gwen, there's Way behind. They're just not afraid right now and get to stand here and deliver as his turret falls to the might of Thundertalk.
Now you've got a wave coming into mid lane and bot lane at the same time, which means that potentially TT could look to push a little further. I think realistically what they want to do is use the gold, the 3,000 gold, which they just ended up gaining from the last series of plays. It's a flip. They do this on vision. They try and buy the Baron with the resets. Not working out so well from RNG. Closer and stuff is actually claimed by the Talia rather than any of the smites or the extra damage coming through. That hostile takeover buys a lot of work and a lot of space, as RNG feels like that could be playoffs slipping away from them.
Credit, of course, with the Thundertalk, who did at least wait the flip. They had the W-empowered arrow from Varus, Talia waiting on her own Q, Lee Sin waiting on his Q too, to really stack up all of that execute damage all at once to make sure they could throw down the smite at the higher HP value to make it a little bit harder for Wei to make that steal happen. But even so, there was that possibility there, and that is not the cleanest. Thundertalk get away with it, but there definitely was another universe, even if it was perhaps smaller than you might see on first paper, where they do at least get a hold of that Baron.
RNG, you know, they've been struggling to get Breathe involved in the game. That's really his first kill participation of the entire game, and it's his death, really. So he's really struggled to get involved in all of this. RNG have struggled to get most of their champions involved. A lot of the time, LPL teams are very good at getting bot lanes with this kill pressure involved in games. I think it's something like Kalista when it's against Lucian is something like 6-1 in the LPL. We're very good at snowballing through this, but RNG are not, sadly, like most other LPL teams right now. They are struggling to find an identity, struggling on individual levels. You just got to wonder, at what point do they just try and focus on Breathe and try and get him into the game? He's side laning again, trying to get some value as TT lead their onslaught towards the base.
Well, the bounty reduces the gold lead from 10,000 to 9,000 momentarily. But
oh, joy.
Yeah, well,
yeah, that's great. Celebrations ensued.
Okay,
there was much rejoicing.
Down, exactly that, but it's still a 4v5. They're going to lose another inhibitor turret. How far is Breathe going to take this?
That's a good question. It's going to be double inhibs from the side of TT on the side of them. That's 3 turrets, though, taken from Breathe. I mean, he's doing a hell of a lot of work. I mean, this is a late game Gwen. They don't even get themselves the second inhibitor at TT. I mean, that's a huge overcommittal, I feel now.
Hoya a little bit late there on the recall. Of course, he didn't have the teleport, importantly, so perhaps the fear was that if he goes back, Breathe just teleports in, you end up in a 4v5 that Hoya can't join.
Okay, resets now coming through. Gold still in the advantage, I guess, from TT up to that point, but
bloody hell.
still. Was that the one shop where you get yourself so much gold, you buy an item all in one go, and 3k odd, just chucked at the wall and he said, I deserve myself a little treat. Breathe. Really the only hope left from RNG. You're hoping that a big Amumu ultimate can hit to kind of shred some of the magic resist, or at least kind of give the conversion from magic resist to true damage, coming through partly through his passive. Maybe that can be enough. It's hard to really see how that works out, though. Luckily, there's no Zhonyas or anything like that on UCal to avoid everything. I mean, it's going to go over the same. It's not the biggest difference, at least. There is a cleanse on 1xN, though. It's going to be very, very hard to pin down the carries and do the damage which matters.
And redemption. There's other Terminus, right? And he's got a Negatron cloak in inventory as well, because he's going towards a wit's end. Like, Breathe's ability to consistently hurt the Varus is going to be actually quite limited.
Yeah, I was thinking normally on 4th item you see the Jack show coming in from it, but I think actually because of the tenacity you get on Wit's End nowadays, it's actually quite valuable versus the team of RNG with a number of different stuns that could be used to break open that combination. TT, they're still going to start forcing into the other side of the map though. There are a couple of wards from RNG which they could look to teleport on for Breathe. It really is about Ming. Can this legendary support recover some old form? He hasn't had a legendary year so far. In this pick, he is the father, the granddaddy of all wombo combos. This has been played all the way since Season 1. Can he find that big Curse of the Sad Mummy?
There's no misfortune to make it a Curse of the Sad Bullet time, but Season 2 combos notwithstanding, I think the likes of a Hui and a Gwen throwing down their ultimates on top of it might do enough work, but they have to find it first. They have to find nearly everybody in that wombo if they really want to make it happen. 2
inhibs are going to be down for the Dragon Spawn. RNG, I realistically think they want to give that one up anyway, because it's not going to be Soul, and it wouldn't be Soul for them either. Wall comes across, UCal pushing the needles in deeper.
Just nothing to be done. The wall comes down, and it just says this because we're demolishing a building here. Stay out. The Wrecking Ball comes on in. Public's
teleport, Breathe. This is the time to fight. This could be the be-all and end-all.
He does have to do that one. Breathe is here. Has thrown down the ultimate to no avail. They just can't find the angle. Finally goes forward, and Breathe just ends up face tanking an Aatrox. On the other side, Ming finally gets in. Base 1 pretty low, but the hostile takeover forces Gwen to attack LWX. They end up attacking each other. It is cannibalism on the Rift.
Execute Order 66's friend on friend. RNG, what a disastrous teleport play. They can't make it work, and they will be losing 2-0 to TT.
Oh, Darth Renata calls on the enemy to fight amongst themselves. It was all a ruse all along. Thunder Talk Gaming are going to be the 2-0 victors here. They throw RNG down to 2-8. Thunder Talk still in with a shot of playoffs.
I don't necessarily want to focus too much on the late game fight until we get a replay of it, but one thing I really want to talk about is how actually one of the reasons that play didn't work out is a Varus E slowed the team so much that they couldn't end up walking up to the teleport or Breathe. Yeah. It was actually a Varus E which separates out the two halves of that fight. Clutch stuff from TT. Good early flash remote. UCal to say, I'm not going to be the first person caught. And TT, I always thought that they had a little bit more to them than their results had suggested. I felt like UCal had been recovering some form. 1xN, one of the most exciting AD carries to come up from the LDL in the last year or two. It was really just him and Leave, really. And now, of course, we've got Stay as well coming up as well. But as we see now, RNG, they are not mathematically out of playoffs, but it is about as good as that. They have a lot of teams faced. In fact, let me go find like their next schedule as well, because RNG are not going to have an easy time of it. Mathematically, you are in at 9 wins. You get in pretty much all the time with 9 wins. They cannot reach that anymore. The best they can reach is 8-8. RNG still have to face JDG. They still have to face OMG, who haven't looked too bad. Obviously, AL's in there too. NIP's on the list. And of course, FPX, one of the rising stars of the entirety of the LPL. RNG have not got an easy road to things. Even if they could pick up a win here and there, they cannot afford another loss. This is devastating for one of the most historic orgs in World League of Legends. It's been a bad day for historic LPL orgs. EDG pretty much out. RNG now almost out as well.
It is difficult to see the falls from grace, but in their place has come out organizations like FPX returning to some of their glory, IG back to some of their glory too. That kind of 2018-19 period where the old guard of EDG and RNG were humbled somewhat by these other organizations saying, actually, we're the ones that won Worlds, not you guys. You were the ones that were supposed to all those years ago and they didn't make it happen. TT today, my boy 1xN. Managed to avoid the bias too much in cast, but he played excellently today as well. And honestly, couldn't have the likes of Chocho and Beichuan as well, who have been a bit more volatile as players as well. The Renata game was excellent. The Lee Sin got some seriously work done early. 2 very different games as well. The first game where they had to play it slow. They had to play for the items. They did so. They came back once they hit those breakpoints. In this game too, where actually the onus was on them to make the plays, and they did so. RNG will look at that and go, that's what we were supposed to do in that game 1. What the hell happened?
RNG, this will not be the first time that they miss playoffs if it doesn't end up working out that way. They were 8-8. They will, if they won every series from now, they would match the record which they missed playoffs in 2020 summer. It would be heartbreaking for this organization to miss playoffs. I think EDG as well missed a single playoffs in their whole career as well. And we might actually see for the first time both of them will be missing playoffs. Thank you so much for tuning in today, folks. That will be LPL for today.
Yep.
These videos will be up on YouTube and stuff. They're on Twitch VODs already. You can go back and watch them. That's heartbreaking for 2 of the most historic walks of the LPL.
Yeah. And now on for me. I'm going to go stream. Bye.
Go do your thing.
I'm going
to
to
do
go.
your thing.
You going to stick around and do some VOD reviews?
I might do a VOD review